they had a special meeting July the 20th, 1928, and they adopted the religious affidavit. Now, when you study the religious laws, principles, is that actually, and you study Heard's law, he actually set up government. So people's concepts of what they thought is the religious affidavit is incorrect. And so that the people would not be confused, he said, remember this, Islam is law, order, and governmental principles. Now, and he also said, we are teaching our people those things necessary to make them better citizens. That's called civics. And he registered the Moorish Temple of Science as a civic organization. You can see it right in the literature, in the historical message. And people who have betrayed him pretend that the whole civic foundation of this movement never existed. Now, keep in mind, from 1913 up until 1928, July the 20th, and this is because of the infiltration, that this major operation of the Morsi-Ban national movement was based around metaphysics, or what you call divine law, and international law principles, preparing us to take our places amongst the affairs of man. That's called international consular venues. Anybody that knows civics and governmental structure knows that. Now, keep this date in mind, July the 20th, 1928. July the 20th, 1929, to the day, 1 year later, they assassinated him. That religious affidavit only had 1 year, didn't even have a chance to settle in before they got Drew Ali out of the way. They pretend that religious affidavit expresses the whole movement, which is a misconception. I yield the floor.
All right, Islam. Okay, Kevin Jasper Bay was asking, he's saying that you're the only person that he's heard say this, that Noble Drew Ali bankrupted the United States corporation. It was serving out of Guam. Can you expound on that?
Yeah, let me explain so you'll understand. Now, people who don't understand history will not understand that concept, if you get the point. It's not that he did it directly, he did it by his actions. Now, I'll also make sure that you get the incorporation papers of the United States Service Corporation of 1925. And keep in mind, he registered the Moorish Holy Temple of Science as a civic organization, 1925, 1926. A synopsis real quick. And this is for people who don't know the history. And remember, Drew Ali said, the half has not been told. If I told you everything, you would go back to sleep. He also reminded us to go back to that state of mind of our ancient mothers and fathers. That's another way of telling us that our concepts at this time are all wrong. We're building concepts around contemporary social engineering perspectives, including the language constructed to regulate and to manage it. You can't take that language and that thought process retroactive and be valid. No different than we can't talk about 1918 and talk about I-10 phones. It ain't happening. It's out of sequence. You know, and so the point of it is, when you go back, you'll see that during the Lincoln administration, Abraham Lincoln, who was the last president for the Republic, by virtue of fatwa, which is called Moorish law, because the American Constitution comes from Muslim law, that's a fact. Now, when you do the research, plus Barack H. Obama exposed that to the world. And you already know he's a constitutional lawyer and he's Kenyan. And he also showed the true American flag when he came back from Egypt. And he exposed that the American Constitution comes from Muslim law. Now, keep in mind that Abraham Lincoln, being a member of the Bar Association, by law could not hold the organic seat of the president for the United States, the organic states of the Union, in relationship to the Republic order set up by Muslims and Christians to stop the hundreds of years wars between the Muslims and the Christians at North America. That's what the organic Constitution is, and the Republic distinguished from the U.S. democracy platform, which was later established. So in 1860, when Lincoln ran for president, they ran him on the platform of the United States Service Corporation, which is a corporation that Benjamin Franklin registered in France in 1754. These are facts that all Adams know. you know they won't teach the people that because they have to admit that the Moorish movement is civic in nature. So to avoid proving that they've been lying all this time, they stay away from this information. That's why a lot of them are upset with me for exposing this information that they should have been telling these people decades ago. So they have a clearer understanding of what they are to do, who they are to align with, who they are to pay taxes to, how to protect the prophet and their movement, how to protect their birthright. They don't even teach them how to protect their birthright. They teach them that it's a religion, a belief system. But anyway, so they ran Abraham Lincoln on that political platform called the United States Service Corporation. It's a trading company registered in France. Lincoln ran on that platform, and by virtue of that, that gave them access to the 19 enumerated powers that were promised to the North Gate under the treaties with the Queen of England. As you know, the United States is a colony, if you get the point. It is not a country, it's a colony. However, as the Moorish government was falling, they agreed, and this is with the ordinance of 1787 called the Northwest Ordinance of 1787. And so you're dealing with the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, 1786, the Northwest Ordinance 1787, the first signing and acceptance of the Constitution from Muslim law 1788, the verification and adoption of the Constitution from Muslim law 1789. That's the George Washington administration. And of course, you know, he converted all the Bonnevilles into the states. That's why George Washington is promoted falsely as the first president and the so-called father of the European side of their corporate nation. And they've been promoting that fraud ever since, when he was actually the 9th president. Now let's go up to the Lincoln administration. They ran Lincoln on the United States Service Corporation platform. In 1860, he quickly recognized that they were using him to undermine the republic. He deliberately bankrupted the United States Service Corporation because they were enforcing what is known as the secret Treaty of Verona to undermine and overthrow the republic. This also put a tag on his back. Also keep in mind, when Lincoln was a lawyer, 1855, the William Dungy case. That was the case distinguishing between Moors and blacks and Negroes. That's 1855. And, you know, that also put a tag on his back. That's why when you go to the microfilm and you look at the early newspapers and the satire, they would have Abraham Lincoln dressed in Moorish garb with a scimitar. All of these things, the young Moors need to know this real history. So now when Lincoln bankrupted that United States Service Corporation, whose platform he was run on, that platform lived up until 1913. And pay attention to these dates. They registered a new United States corporation company in Guam, Puerto Rico, and the Philippines. A private foreign for-profit human trafficking corporation, not a country. And so that lived into 1913. And keep this in mind. So Lincoln bankrupted that one, didn't he? Now, a man named Noble from the Anayambuya, or what you call Cherokee Confederation, commanded that the Queen of England stop the Negro brand stuff and honor their obligation to the treaty and the Constitution. Now, I know them friends, she's don't tell people like that, but I'm telling them like that so they can understand the politics, if you get the point. Low battery. Can you plug it in? All right. We're going outside because the phones went down. Hold on.
All right. Okay. Well, you going in?
All right. So
yeah.
Now, keep in mind. So with that,
hang on, everybody.
Yeah, leave your light on. Oh yeah. Oh, he's going outside and he's going to go get his charger for the phone.
All right.
All right. I'm going with him. Hold on.
All right. Hang on, everybody.
All right.
Yeah, I don't.
Now keep in mind and take notes on this. Now, so that corporation that Lincoln bankrupted
running or choked out to death on the corners. Mistake to take the far inside, I'm just a coroner. To the yellow journalist that won awards for writing facts, for World Wide Web press stories, always calling them black. Civil rights violated here from C1.7, and CIA and FBI agents, brethren, fellas with what the brother once heard. Put wars on nerds and 30 more than if I'm on the road, no biting curbs. Professor Lucas, I'm fighting for survival. Making wars martyrs won't happen, calling us captain rivals. Inquisition is governors and secretaries of state. Got stateless on their tables like ribeye steak. With no care, blood dripping. They eat blacks rare. Foreigners wearing 6-point badges, pretending they're heirs to the vastest estate Muslim Al-Aqsa. Stainless blood troll bath the horses, brow on service agua. Demons thirst, sweat, stealing pioneers and organs. Psychiatry, death industry. The start selling black orphans. And half those coffins. Cause legs are missing, killing stateless people. Cancer won't even see remission. More lives matter. Like black lives don't matter. 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 What system? Not gonna make myself no victim. Run down and kick them off, educate oneself and flip them. All of these titles are nationality strips them. Must grip reality in order to really grip them in this third dimensional illusion. Organized chaos confusion. Giving your protection. Mental intrusion. Universal law, declaration of the ancient. I self-law and master from the rooftop to the basement. Root deep to the spaceship. Ever since all creation, celestial foundation. Ocean floor to the ranges, to the mountain tip, to the cosmic infinite. Basically, we are way above the shit. In other words, get in tune with spirit. Take a breath and accept mental polarities in the rhythm, correspondence, vibration, cause and effect. More lives matter. Like black lives don't matter. 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 More lives matter because I think it don't sound dumb. You get protected when protected, you can ask love. If my perspective on direct you to replay, all the rules that one replay, till they want to catch off. Hurry on to the next one. No put them on running down. You them a catch off. Can't believe I'm talking that. Can't believe I'm talking about Trayvon, Michael Brown, Lazarus is back. The afterlife, visited the class wrong. Who they really want to see with the crown on high and the guards on free. I am free and nothing is but your land or your country to see your inalienable rights. The insatiable delight of knowing thyself and bringing all injustice to light. What the fight is your claim, make your fight for the bright. I'm the fight in the night. More time for you to realize that. More lives matter. Black lives don't matter. More lives matter. Like black lives don't matter. More lives matter. Like black lives don't matter. More lives matter. Like black lives don't matter. Peace and love, Moors. I am Mizraim LFL. You are tuned into NHHS, Eyes Wide Open, Sons of Allah. Second one for September since we missed you in August. I am here with the Grand Sheik, Iron Sheik, Kudjo, Ivo L. Peace and love, Noble.
Islam, more peace and love to you. Islam to all the Moors in the chat and all the Moors on the Blog Talk radio program. Peace and love.
Facts and my gosh. Yo, you know it's crazy. Off top, I just want to say, you know how we say we plan and we plan, but Allah is the best of planners.
Islam.
Like I'm I'm in a location right now in my hometown area. And it's crazy, like the message in the Moors the Moors Lives Matter song, because literally, I'm talking about within 5 minutes of this show starting, of this broadcast starting, you know what I'm saying? Somebody had dropped dead right in front of the building that I'm at, bro. Right. 5 minutes before we start this show. I said I could be recording this on Mantis Views, but I'm minding my business. And I would say that Moors Lives Matter, because even if, let's say, they wake up from the situation they just passed out in so horrific state that, you know, some of our people are basically in that state. They're just walking dead. But like to actually see somebody achieve that in your circumference, like, damn, you know what I mean? Like, this shit just happened, bro. So I'm just saying that to say that shout out to the Moors Lives Matter song.
Islam,
that definitely had significance, man, because, you know, it's just crazy, bro. It's crazy. But yo, I'm definitely glad to be back on the MHHS Sons of Allah with you.
Islam.
Because I know we missed, peace, guys.
Yeah.
I know we missed all, and there's a lot more to catch up on here in these times. Things are revealing themselves by the minute, bro. By the minute. You know, and I say this too. I just walked through. Someone told me, right? From what's going on in my life right now, I just was like, yo, I'm about to just walk through my old neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? Like literally walk through it. And that's what I did, bro. And I didn't see anybody out there from the days in the early times that I came up in, except this European woman, right? And her husband and her daughter, they were the only Europeans in the neighborhood, and they're still there. They're still there. And I just got this on the Mantis lens, like right before we started this. And she told me straight up, because we know the brains of Negro black color, we know all of those things, but we also know what minority means, meaning, you know, infant or someone where wardship is applicable to, you know, like wardship is applicable to a minority. But this European lady told me straight up in this community, you know, that she was the minority. And it just was like, it's not something I didn't know, but to hear a European lady say this, you know what I mean? That has 4 decades and some change in the community, even though she's European. You know what I mean? To make 4 decades and still there. You know what I mean? That's just crazy. But for her to say that she was the minority, I never had a conversation about nationality or anything with that in my life with her, because I moved from that neighborhood when I was young and had my teenage and young adulthood and to what they consider a legal adult, you know, years in another space, in another place, you know what I mean, in another part of planet Earth. But to see she's still there, and to this day, to hear her say she was a minority, it just reminded me that, you know, it's the fact, and it's true. You know, minority doesn't mean dark skin. It doesn't mean so-called Latino, Spanish, or any of that. These are things that are fresh on my mind, because it just happened, bro, like literally on the way to do this. So I'm thankful for this day. I'm thankful for the fact that we're in full life. What's happening, cuz? You all right? All right, that's what's up. We're in full life. I can salute my cousin. I can salute friends, family, etc. in the flesh. I know we won't be here forever, but you know, it's just crazy. There's the walking dead, and then there's the civil tous, and then there's those who have dearly departed. And we're here for a reason. We're not just here to be here. We're here to make shit happen, you know? And these are the times that we're in right now. So I say that to say I'm just happy to be here, bro. You know what I mean? And the revelations I had over the past 45 days, I would say, have been really interesting. It's been really interesting. And I want to specifically acknowledge, you know, the experience last weekend visiting the Library of Congress for the first time. I know you've been there before, right?
Yeah.
That's a fact, correct?
It's a lot more.
Yeah. It's, you know, I gotta give thanks. Yo, I want to say this too, and this is on some real sincere, honest. This is my honest opinion. Yo, Set and Ra, I think him and everybody who put that together. But yo, that's a noble and a humble brother, bro, to take the time out to put, yo, facts, bro. Like, it, you know what I mean? It's just all the revelations that, like, yo, it's a beautiful thing.
Actually,
so we was at the Library of Congress.
Actually, before you go on, just speaking about that concept about Brother Seton being a humble Moor.
Yeah.
Right.
Humble Moor.
Not one time when he's come out here lecturing or whatever did he ever take any type of finance to do that. Not once. There's Moors that we talk to, try to get them to lecture here. They're talking about $5,000. This Moor would jump in his ride and he would make his way here on his own dime. You know what I mean? And then when we're talking about this, we're talking about one of the classes a couple of days ago, we were talking about what it really means to be active. There's something right there you could do if you want to be active. You don't got to go to court. You don't got to do right to travel. You don't got to claim a house. How about set up a tour for the community? Whether they're Negro, black, colored, whatever, doesn't matter. Set up a tour for them to go learn something about themselves. How about that being active? How about setting up some classes somewhere so people could learn and let that be your activity? If you think your activity has to do with you going in front of some highwayman or some European in order to convince them of your birthrights, you've been fooled greatly. But these Europeans, and just like we're about to go into, where Miz is definitely gonna go tonight, these Europeans already know who the fuck you are. And then these people stay dissing, and these people stay disrespecting the humble, sincere, truthful people who freaking lose sleep and wreck their bodies and shit like that, staying up, going over here, going there. They might even be working a 9 to 5 just so that they could have some finance to help do some stuff for some fallen humanity. And people playing around. They want to give honors to these opportunists and these wish they could be somebody today because now they know they're Moors, and you know it's a popular thing to be a Moor teaching people. F out of here, your BS. There's only active Moors and passive Moors. Dirty Moors fall into passive Moors because they're not doing anything for the movement. That's what it is. There's the Moors who been with Noble Drew Ali ever since he been around, and then there's the Moors who've been against Noble Drew Ali ever since he been around. And even after he left, they're still against him, which lets you know how serious it is. That they're against a dead guy.
Yeah.
Like you're going against a dead guy?
Hey, yo.
You guys are effed in the head.
Seriously, yo. Seriously. Yo. On that note, too, I want to say this. I don't know what, I think it was on a video posted on Brother Najib L's YouTube page, bro. But I don't know if it's just me, but I'm seeing a whole new wave of the trolls, bro.
Yo, whole new wave.
These people, yo, no, they really upgraded. You know how Neo was in the Matrix, and he was like, "Oh, upgrade." Like, yo, they upgraded to the point where, you know, they got L and Bay on their appellation, and now they're saying Prophet Noble Drew Ali wasn't a more, bro. I was like, wow.
Wow. Wow. That's a new one. I never heard that one before. That's a new one.
Me either, bro. Now, Jill Bell could probably screenshot that right now and post it in the edit when he posts this video. I know he's seen that. You know what I mean? But, yo, it's just a whole new wave of trolls, and it's like, only thing that changes not, bro, is the truth. So it doesn't matter how many of these, you know what I mean, zombies try to leech off of, you know what I'm talking about, leech off of the true and living, you know, or suck on the blood of the true and living. It's not going to work, bro. But I'm just like, damn, you got to watch everything now closely. So, yeah, and speaking on that note of watching things closely, so I was mentioning that, you know, the brother Seton Rao is a very humble brother, him, wife, etc. You know what I mean? And everybody that was a part of that particular tour or examination of certain things of true substance. You know what I'm talking about? As far as law, history, etc. Because again, you know, if it wasn't for them, it would have been a minute before I would have had my first time in the Library of Congress.
For real.
Specifically myself. Been sent references from the Library of Congress, and I've shared those references, but I haven't like been in there. And I can't wait to actually put out the perspective and the footage that is had, but it's like, it's so much that I didn't catch while I was there. But going back and re-looking at it and zooming in on certain pictures and still pictures, it's just amazing. And I really can't wait to share that, you know, because you're talking about some of the best artists in the world. You take a small, everything is laid out with mosaic tile on the ceiling. Most of the things are laid out with mosaic tiles. And the artistry that went into that alone, for it to be so perfect and be more than what meets the eye at the same time, is just amazing, y'all. It's just amazing. But I say this, and this is not anything that hasn't been said before, but in these days, it's like, you know, even correlative to the new wave of trolls I was just speaking of, that is even saying Noble Drew Ali wasn't a Moor. I'm like, this is the craziest you ever heard of right here. Yeah. You know what I mean? But even to those who will be like, oh, you can't be a Moor if you're not in the temple, in the Library of Congress, right? There's maxims and axioms, you know, written all across the wall. I know you've been there, so you know what I'm speaking of.
Yeah.
And two that stood out the most to me was the fact that one said that, you know, there is no other temple in the universe except the body of man. This is what the axiom or the maxim was, or the truism was, that was written and etched on the wall. Said, damn, that's a deep statement. So meaning that, you know, this correlates directly with what Noble Drew Ali was saying, as far as you know, the spirit man and building perfected man in the temple of man, etc. Like, all of this is not just, you know, a religious belief, quote unquote. This is knowledge exercise, because this is written in the Library of Congress, etched in stone. And remember, Congress, the First Amendment says, the Congress shall not make a law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, right? And they know this, so they know the importance of divinity. So for there to be an axiom like that in the Library of Congress, right? There is no temple in the universe except the body of man. This lets you know, that no matter what organization you belong to, the divinity is within you all, because we're natural and nature is divine. Nature is there's no, you can't even put it in words, the law of nature, so it was interesting to see that. And as well, they said this, right, in the Library of Congress, and everything in there reminded me of Noble Drew Ali's teaching. Like, I'm gonna just tell you straight like that, like referencing it back. Everything reminded me of Noble Drew Ali's teachings, because they also had an axiom that said that there is no university except a library of books. There is no other university. That's ill, because Noble Drew Ali was talking about back then, you know what I mean? The longer they stay in the schools, the more they'll defend jumping through the hoops. And it's not to knock education or having knowledge of self or, teaching or anything like that. But, when there's certain curriculums that are not in your best interest, you have to really take that into consideration when he was talking about, the longer they stay in the schools, the more they'll defend jumping through the hoop. He was speaking about the fools, that and he was a wise man, so it's not like he had something against knowledge. He was talking about the way they was getting it. You know what I'm talking about? Where they was getting it. Yeah. So this is, it's important to study. He wasn't, it ain't like wise man or a prophet would have anything against knowledge. You can't. You know what I mean? But to be like the way you getting it and being mistaught and misled, anybody can have a discrepancy with that. And so his position was valid when he was talking about, the longer that they're staying in the schools and being trained to jump through the hoops, the more vivid they'll defend jumping through the hoops. Because you have to understand, you have Moors who have arisen from the dismal crypts into the illumination of themselves. You know what I'm saying? The knowledge of themselves. So you're talking about Moors. There's Moors right now who they don't have college degrees. They don't have, some of them have GEDs instead of high school diplomas. But the knowledge of self that they have, they're stopping the bank of, so-called attorneys and people with letters on their names based off of fundamental law knowledge. So, the fact that they have all of these 100,000s of notes of degrees or whatever to be a judge or an attorney or go to law school, Moors is coming in with natural law references and shutting all of that down to whereas what you thought you was doing is for, I don't want to say it like this. I don't want to say I hate, but I don't want this to sound arrogant. You know what I mean? But it's like they're looking at certain perspectives of, I paid thousands of notes and, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands to get quote unquote educated. But, it's so, they're looking at it like, these Moors who haven't went to college, haven't done any of that, not that, and it's not that it's not Moors that went, but I'm talking about just as far as being versed in the natural law, the constitutional law. It doesn't take a college course for that. And what they pay for to go to college and do, just knowing the Constitution shuts all of that down. So it's like, damn, it's not about the money. It's not about the Federal Reserve. No, it's not about the notes. It's about knowledge. And that's what scares them, is you being awakened to the knowledge of yourself and who you really are. Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. So that's what it is. That's all we really got to do. So, you know, more, I just say that to say that Noble Drew Ali was on. And when they say that there is no university except the library of books, that's a true statement. You know what I mean? And it will be encouraged to get knowledge impartially. Get knowledge impartially and come to a conclusion. Don't ride a popular opinion wave and you haven't did the knowledge to really see what certain things are about. You know what I mean? So I leave it there for now because I definitely would like to talk about this more or show it more. But this last week has been definitely a catch-up week for me, bro. I'm trying to get there. So right now I'm gonna yield the floor over to you for a minute, bro.
There's a lot more. Just to go back and just to recap as well, recognizing for real, how much these individuals know due to, you know, coming to the realization, being at the Library of Congress, you know, the one day when we were there, Islam to Brother Loon and Supreme and all the other Moors that we met, first time meeting, you know what I mean, out in when we went out there, and being in this building that had so much undeniable facts about Moorish history, about Moorish science, about world history, about the start of this corpse, U.S. It being so upfront and so in your face, it's like an undeniable truth that our people have a very hard time accepting. And it has to be because of the work that the people on our side are doing that think this is a joke and unreal. Because these people came out of a cave, so there's no Willie Lynch whatever that they can put on our people, have us dumb like how we are right now. When you have a place like the Library of Congress sitting there, turbans and fezzes all around this building, in stone, stairs of marble, floors of marble. You know what I mean? You know, like, what more do the people need to realize how important their stake is in this? But their stake's only important if they're conscious and competent of what it is they have or who they are. And a lot of us are wide open for what we have, but we're not wide open to who we are. We're dense when it comes to who we are. Because again, it's all around us. When we went to the Library of Congress and we went to the room with, I think it was Jefferson's library or whatever. And you're going through all these books that this European got. We're talking about back then.
Yeah.
Back in those times.
Yeah.
And this man has a, you know, wall to wall library and all that type of stuff. And you just named the topic, the books in there. As far as, you know, anything religious, anything law, anything, you know, the upper subject matters. You didn't have no vegan cookbooks and BS like that. They're real books.
Right.
right? And this tour guide, European, whatever, was going on and on about them not being Christian or whatever. And Jefferson and his Quran and all that. Them being deists. Them not even dealing with religion on that level. This is on the tour of the freaking thing. Average people there, they just want to see the books and the whatever. They're not really penetrating like where they are really.
Yeah.
Because it's like, because we as from the perspective of Moorish history, we know all these people's goddamn buildings are Moorish castles. That's not a building that they said they made up. Any building you research them Europeans, a building that means something, it goes back to some Oriental or some Moorish architectural renaissance, whatever. All the time. They don't play some wood and nails for their buildings that mean something.
Right.
All them buildings are custom to look like Moorish architecture, Oriental architecture, Arabic architecture, Renaissance architecture. All that is Moorish history.
Yeah.
And then we're sitting here really, really thinking about it and sitting here like, God damn, these people had this building here for 100 and something years or whatever. Moors on the building. Geometric stuff inside that they took out of Alhambra and all that. Or they copied from Alhambra, or they copied from University of Genève floor or something like that.
Yeah.
Sitting right there. Years. These people complaining, getting shot up, all this type of BS going on to them, losing cases for stupid stuff, getting pimped by entertainment companies and record companies and sports people, and they're just getting played by everybody. But they got this building here for 100+ years talking about these same people who don't want to be what's on the building, who don't want to study what's in the building. They want to deal with things that European doesn't even care about. They come from other planets and stuff like that, and they are a nation of adjectives, and they need respect and power to the people and all that. And that's not, these people don't recognize that. If they got this building, if they got this building that's called a library, and it's not something where you can't go and get a membership and go there and study. Going back to the same thing about school and all that. Are you being trained to jump through the hoop, or are you self-training?
Right.
Are you being trained to jump through the hoop, or are you being trained to make your own hoop and jump through that?
Right. Major question right there, yo. God damn, yo.
It's insane, yo. How far off our people are. But at the same time, while they're miles off the path or whatever, this thing's right in their face.
Right in the face, yo. Right in the face. But that's the thing. I think, I don't know, some people have the mentality of never leaving the area they came up in or came from or whatever. Sometimes you gotta move around and see stuff, bro, to make some sort of broader sense of life. Because there's more to it than just one area. So you have to go see things. Because half the stuff these people be saying you can tell they don't know history and how law and history go together. Because there's a history of law. Like, law has a history itself. So you have to understand the history of certain things to understand how law came into formation, you know. And when you talk about like a Library of Congress, which means, you know, the people who have the certain book laws and pass certain laws or whatever, constitutionally, you know, there's certain things that they have a prohibition on by the Constitution, which again goes back to the First Amendment. You know, they can't make certain laws. And, you know, so it goes to show that really when you know the history, you know, these people are there to actually have to yield to the public. They're servants. I'm not going to say they're quote-unquote public servants, but I say that, you know, they're servants and they have to yield to the public or the people when it comes to certain rights is what they're obligated to do. What they do is another story, but, you know, the obligations that go with that definitely supersede anything that they're doing under color of law. You know, specifically like when they do take oaths, whether they be official or quasi, when they put their pen on that thing, that's an obligation at that point. So, you know, I just say that to say, man, like, to go see these things and to see, because you mentioned Thomas Jefferson's library, right? So a lot of it is dealing with United States history, right? And notice I didn't just say American history, but I said United States history, because United States history is relatively young. American history is older than that. And it's funny because when I walked in, the European lady, I asked her, I said, well, you know, what would you suggest for a first timer? And she suggested to me the map room in another room. And she referred to the map room as the so-called birth certificate of America. It's like, what? What do you mean birth certificate of America? And she went on to explain, you know, it was the first map that showed America not as the West Indies. So to them, you know, now I've been trying to absorb that statement because this is what she said. I didn't mention nothing about none of that. I didn't come in talking about like, yo, I'm a sovereign citizen and, you know, forget the birth certificate. I don't know what it was. It's something that they have amongst them. It just is what it is. But that's what the lady said, European lady. You know what I mean? She worked there and she said that the map room is quote unquote America's birth certificate because they thought it was the West Indies and then realized that it didn't have anything to do with India. What she was basically saying, and you know, these are things I look forward to sharing so you can analyze. But it was a very interesting. It was an interesting experience. It definitely was, and it didn't stop there. You know, it's crazy because when you pay attention to these things, you realize the connection, even with the so-called George Washington, etc., and the signing of the Constitution, and why Charlotte is considered the sister city of Philadelphia, and all of these things, and then D.C. being the relocation spot from Philly for the Pilgrims or the Protestant nations of Europe or the modern Europeans. However, you know what I'm saying? They moved it from Philly to what they call a District of Columbia. And this is another thought I had, bro, while we're down there. I was thinking, I'm like, all right, always pay attention to environment. Even the non-beginners, even what they call it under color of law. So they call it the District of Columbia. And I'm like, you know, I was taught, and I know you've had the teachings, and I know many of us have had teachings that the so-called Supreme Court is originally in Philadelphia. Because remind you, the Constitution was ratified in 1791. It didn't relocate from Philadelphia, so-called Philadelphia, to the District of Columbia until 1800. That didn't happen until after the Constitution was ratified. So all of these governmental activities was going on in Philadelphia, or so-called Philadelphia. Philadelphia, Shaka Maxim, etc. This was the seat of the government up until 1800, and then they went down to the District of Columbia. So all those preliminary correspondences and all of these things, this is where they met up at. And it's like, when you really look at it, DC, so-called District of Columbia, it is what they said it is, right? It's a district. It is a district. And I was thinking, being as though we was taught that the Supreme Court really still is in Philadelphia, you know, that's an interesting concept to analyze, because if the District of Columbia is a district, and that's the jurisdiction is a district, I don't understand how the Supreme Court could sit there. Because, like, in states, they have district courts. Like, they have, like, federal district courts. Some places, what they call county courts or superior courts, they call them district courts in other places. Or they call them circuit courts in other places. But none of these are all basically like the county court, not the municipal courts. Like, because every so-called county has a superior court, basically. But they just call it different things in different areas. So, like, in Jersey, they'll call the county municipal court or superior court. You know what I'm saying? They'll call it that court based off of, they'll call it superior court based off of the county. So every county has its so-called superior court. But then when you go down south a little bit, some courts are called circuit courts or vicinages. You know what I mean? Contrast to vicinages. But I'm saying that to say that if you could break down these corporations to boroughs, districts, counties, municipalities, states, etc., we would have to really examine the District of Columbia for what it is. And this is not radical talk, but if it's a district, the only thing that could be supreme in a district is a district court, not a Supreme Court. So there's no way really that, like, the one Supreme Court is that original jurisdiction, because it's a district. And the only thing it can have is a district jurisdiction. So it does make sense that the Supreme Court relates to the Constitution, because the District of Columbia was not in effect in 1791 like that, as far as governmental powers and, you know, seats of so-called government, etc. That wasn't the spot, not until after 1800. So at the time the Constitution was framed, what was the Supreme Court they was talking about? It wasn't in no district, because districts are within territories. So I say that to say that, you know, even to this day, I don't see how the Supreme Court could be within the jurisdiction of the district. It's not even a territory. And their motto is taxation without representation. That's on the license plate to so-called Washington, D.C. Their shit is taxation without representation. So they let you know right there, they're on some unconstitutional whatever. That's their motto, you know, in the district. So I don't know. I don't want to speak, and none of this is intended to be radical speech. We're talking logic, analyzations of things. There's no way the Supreme Court can be within the district. It just can't. It doesn't make any sense. You feel me though? Because I don't know. It's just interesting, but I'll let the video speak for itself on that note.
Sure.
But yo, that just struck me a whole different thought, you know?
No, I mean even with here with the courts, you know, it's the same thing with the municipal level doing whatever they do, the provincial level, and then the federal level supposed to be the one that is supreme to the rest. But when you check the federal level, that goes back to the exchequer court, which is strictly, you know, their tax collectors or whatever. So they're still playing, you know, the game of this is business under the guise of it's a court. That's why it's really about not being in there, because they're not dealing with law in there. Especially nowadays. Like especially nowadays. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And where really being yourself is what's gonna play, because they're gonna play back to see if you've been being yourself. If you go in there saying that you're more. They already know what's up. They already got the stuff in the Library of Congress by CM Bay. So they know what's up.
Oh, yeah. They already know what's good. And when you walk in, right, yo, they have marble floor. I mean, it's a beautiful layout. Right, like the designs and all of that. I say, in my humble opinion, from not just what I saw there, but what I'm analyzing in the editing process is, we're talking about some of the best artists in the world putting those mosaic tiles together, those marble floors, the artistry everywhere. There had to be deep, like some of the most elite artists ever at that time. Even though, you know, some of them, you see pale skin, Nation of Europe images. I'm talking about beyond that. The big tiles. It's just ridiculous, yo. It's just crazy. But yo, you mentioned CM Bay putting his work in the Library of Congress. And on the marble floor, bro, it's the signs of the zodiac. All over the marble floor.
Yep.
Black and white. You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
So they can't that astrology is some sort of pseudoscience in love. No, wake up. This shit is on the Library of Congress floor. Marble floor. Super expensive. So in these days, you know what I mean? Like, has heavy, you know, operative mission work go into manifesting that with that smooth type of finish, bro.
Right.
Like, I'm talking about everything about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you know what it is to cut marble and to get a flat marble surface? That's extreme craft work right there. And have the zodiac all in it, that's just ridiculously amazing, bro. Artwork.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying that to say that if Congress is in the power or has certain is in the position to make certain laws and prohibited from making any other type of laws, specifically when it comes to that of religious freedom or your divine connection to live in accordance with natural laws and natural principles in the universe, no matter what condition you're in. Like, these are laws they cannot, you know, negate, they can't put barriers up on this because it's prohibited by the First Amendment. So for them to know that and have the Zodiac on the marble floor, and Noble Drew Ali was talking about the Seraphim and the Seraphim, and the Bay was going in with the Zodiac Constitution, all of these things being in the Library of Congress. Because you got to remember too, you know, when we say the Library of Congress, like that's a loose statement because it's actually 3 buildings that make up the Library of Congress. It's not just one. You know what I'm saying? There's 3 buildings. There's 3 complexes. So we was in one of the libraries of the Library of Congress. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, yeah, that's a good clarification.
Yeah, it is. It's 3 buildings that make up the Library of Congress. So, like, we're talking about endless information. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's multiple institutions for the same cause, same library. So, can anybody talk about, you know, in these days that there's some excuse for ignorance? The real talk, though, real talk, so-called Washington, D.C. itself is just a library. It's an open book.
Yeah, that
it
too.
It's an open book.
Yeah,
There's so
that
many.
too.
Yeah, it's an open book. And that's everywhere across all these so-called major cities and whatnot. They're all open books, bro. Stories is being told in all of these places. Because all of these places have significant history, you know? So it's just amazing, bro. You know, so the complex we was able to see was amazing. I know going back again, it would be beautiful to relook at it. Oh yeah, we just happened to run into a Moor that was from another part of northwest of Mexico too while we was there. That was interesting. We just knew what it was because we seen Moors and turbans and fezzes and all of these things. So he came up and acknowledged. But as far as any more details, I'm gonna just let the video speak for itself. It was really interesting, you know. But that whole day, that whole trip was great energy as far as I'm concerned.
Did that Moor that ran up on you? Did he ask you what temple you're from?
Well, no, that's the thing. He didn't run up on me. He ran up on another brother, and then the other brother had brought him over and said that, you know, that's how he met him. He just acknowledged him because he had his he seen the fezzes and whatnot, and was together. So he just, you know what I mean? He came right up to him, which is another key of, you know, being distinguished in society, like recognizable. You know what I'm saying? But it's a lesson even in that. You know what I mean? Like to be able to be, it doesn't make you a Moor, but just like in certain parts of society, people are able to identify that. Like, oh, you know what I'm saying? Says more. You know what I'm saying? It's just big. Let people know. You know, it's a national headdress, but it signifies something.
Right.
But we went in, some of us was, you know, just blending in. You know, we didn't want to be distinguished like that. And as well, some of us was distinguishable and identifiable, but you know what I'm saying? Nonetheless, we all walked out of there with something we didn't come in with. And that's the main thing. And it's just amazing, yo. I appreciate the whole situation. I suggest that that be done a lot more often.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot more often. I love to hit the field. Like, let's go in the field and do this research.
You know what's interesting? You know what's interesting? Now that I'm thinking about it, that I didn't bring up in the beginning. I just thought about it right now. Settenrod took me on my first freaking tour too.
That's dope. Yeah. Yeah.
That's pretty crazy.
It is, bro. It is. But that's cool though. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
we've all been to places most of us haven't been. And it's cool when we can be like, yo, we going and you know, come along if you want to.
Right.
It is what it is. You know what I mean? But just to put the offer out. That's my thing. You know, I don't know. I realized lately I've been going that attention deficit thing. I need to be like in the field learning. I need to see signs. I need to see big ass libraries.
Right.
I need to see all of these things. You know what I mean? To keep my attention in it. Not for nothing. It's just like I've been reading for years, and I won't ever stop reading. But you just be trying to just like to find new ways to learn.
No, it's crazy.
Experiences.
Yeah, no, it's crazy you bring that up because I was dealing with a sister earlier today, and she was saying that same thing. That she was watching this documentary, and she realized that this isn't it right now. You know what I mean? Getting it in this form, like I need to get to a different level of receiving this information. You know, that came to my mind when you were talking about that, about wanting to be in the library, not read about it.
Yeah. That's the thing. Oh, that's the thing, because it's like really, and when we finish with this video completely, when I finish editing and all of that, we get the final cuts and all of that, like, people are going to see why we say MHHS, eyes wide open, though. Because it's certain things you really what you saying? Real talk, though. Facts. Like, eyes wide open.
It's not just a name.
Even if you don't read the book, if you just pay attention, you'll see something in your spirit.
Yep, you'll see something. It's unavoidable, yo. It's unavoidable.
Yeah.
People try to avoid it though. Yeah. They want their eyes wide shut on some real ones. They love that eyes wide shut shit.
Exactly.
They love that.
You know what I mean? But,
Jeremy.
Yeah. I'm at the point where I'm just like, yo, it's everything is falling into place, and it's like, pardon me again, that Library of Congress experience was really, really, that was healthy timing. I'll say that. You know what I mean? Like, it was definitely healthy. It was a good experience. And we didn't stop there. We went some other places, but I don't want to recap the whole thing and spoil it for the visuals or whatnot. But it just was a really good experience. And if anybody ever has the chance, I just suggest that you do that. Especially if you get the invitation, like, definitely go. You haven't been.
Yeah.
Seriously, now that you study, yeah, I would say go. You know what I mean? Definitely go. But you gotta pay attention to details. You'll see so much more. And you know, this is something else I wanted to point out, and I'll end my recap on this. Like, there was like corners and things like that. But as far as the ceiling goes and where the walls like intersect and meet, I didn't see a lot of corners, bro. I seen like a lot of like semicircles instead of square corners. You know what I'm saying? Like there was a lot of circles opposed to square corners, and I was wondering, like I was peeping the science in that. I'm like, hold on, you know what I mean? It's like the energy is not blocked; it just keeps flowing around. Like if you was to just walk in there and just keep looking up, it's like there's no corners. That's how it felt like. You know what I mean? It's just all just back around. Like it's just looping back. Like if the earth had curvature, it basically would be like that. Like it just is a loop somewhere, and there's no like stopping. It's all interrelated. It's all connected. You know what I mean? It's just amazing. I can't explain it. It has to be shown, or you have to see what I'm talking about. But I'm gonna explain the rest of my explanation on the video itself, bro, and I'm gonna leave that at that. Now let me ask you this though: what was the main thing that stuck out to you on your first time to the library of Congress? I know you recapped the show, but what would you say is the main thing that just was like, oh, wow, like you went in there for the first time?
The thing that captivated me was when we went to, I can't remember the name of the hill or whatever, but we went to this hill that looks over the quote unquote district, right? And you can pull up the picture online of a picture of Kemet, and it's the exact picture.
I think I know what you're talking about.
That was the one. That was the one that hit me. Say that again.
Like from a distance, it was like you could see the pyramid.
Yeah. You could see the obelisk. You could see the way like the building was set from that place. Like stuff looked like pyramids and all that. It didn't look like buildings down there. You know what I mean? Right. And it had the obelisk and everything. And I'm looking at it and it's like, oh, these people are serious with what they were, you know?
Oh yeah.
And then you go back to the fact that it was the Moor Ben Bey.
Yes.
That put that on the record so that anywhere you look from any type of elevation there, you're seeing that landscape. You know what I mean? It was like some genetic memory bank tapping. Cause all of us looked at it when we were up there. All of us looked at it. Everybody saw the same thing. Like, oh snap! It looks just like Kemet up here. But we're not over there. We're over here right now.
Exactly.
You know, like that was probably one of the highlights for me on a Eureka level. You know, that the Egypt of the West is really real.
Oh yeah.
You know, the Egypt of the West is real. But other than that, as far as the build, like that particular building itself, I think the turbans and the fezzes, the Moor heads on the building outside, that was just crazy. I always seen those in pictures, but I just wanted to see those, which is what, you know, one of the things being there was, yeah, man, I have to go to see those freaking heads on that building, because that's just insane to me. That I'm looking at a Moor with a fez on a building in stone, and then one has a turban. and it's like this. It's really, really many are called, chosen are few, for real, for real. Like it's really, really that. Because if you can't see that, you seriously, your eyes are closed, eyes wide, shut, super shut, wide eyes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Pineal gland be calcified. Yeah, calcified pineal gland.
Calcified. You know?
Yeah. Hey, yo, you know what's crazy? I don't know if you peep, when you walk in, you're talking about the same building. You have to pick out all of them, but I believe it is the same one because when you walk in, there's like artwork sculpture on the door. Like it's an arc at the top of the door, but there's artwork sculpture where they're showing different people gathered talking. So they have the modern image of what they would call the Native Indian, quote unquote, is what it looks like. You know what I mean? And then they have a modern European and somebody smoking a peace pipe. But I picked this. They had a sculpted image of like what appears to be the modern Indian, but with the so-called Egyptian head crown on.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the ash coming out of it. And I'm like, oh, wow. But this is right on top of the door coming into the particular library. And I'm just like, wow. You know what I mean? What is the message saying? Why would they have what they promote as the, you know, imagery of the so-called Native American, really, you know, Asiatic of America who are more, etc. You know, they're talking about, which is us, really. But, you know, they show it as the so-called Indian. And just to see that there for the front of it, like, I'm just like, oh, wow. You know, that's saying a lot. They're definitely saying a lot. Because we all know that headdress with the snake, you know what I mean, curl, like the ASP, like it's ready to strike.
Yeah.
We all know that represents the body gland.
Yeah.
And it's talking about eyes wide. You know what I mean? Like, even if the pineal gland is calcified, you know it's a rat. It's definitely a rat. You know what I mean? So, you have to be diligent and knowledgeable to even be able to put all of that together.
Straight up.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
But it's
and then, this one of the museums we've been, I know that you pointed this out on one of the videos, one of Dr. Ben's book, right, as what they call Africa Today, right, or Southeastern Mexico, as a map, but they have what they call the United States within that map, right, on the northwest side of Africa, so-called Africa Today, right?
Mm.
You know what I'm talking about?
I can't remember.
Peace, bro.
Yeah, I can't recall right now.
Oh, peace, more. If there's anybody listening,
yeah. Peace, more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm here, yo.
Right.
Yeah, I'm here. Okay. No, I was saying that I can't recall the map right now.
Yeah, I believe it was on one of Dr. Ben's books.
Oh, all right.
But he had like a map of what they call Africa Today, and in the northwest part of what they call Africa Today,
they had the map of what they call the United States today within so-called Africa. And it just was like a message like, wow. And they had this in a particular museum. And the question above it was, where have you been? And I thought about that question, like, you know, being as though they have the United States within Africa. And the question is, where have you been? That's some shit to really think about, specifically when you look at the lessons. You know, what Ali left when he was talking about, you know, the modern name for Africa is, the ancient name of Africa is Anexum. You know what I'm saying? And they have Northwest Anexum connected with the so-called United States. And I'm like, through this artwork, that's leaving a message about who the Aboriginal people were on a lawful note. This particular land where oppression was running rapid, like very rapid. So, you know, I don't know. I just thought that was interesting. The question was, where have you been? And if somebody was to say the United States, when you look at the map, where you say, well, the United States is in Africa, so-called, you know, just from that perspective. And then you think about the lessons Noble Ali left, and you say, okay, well, let's go to this being Northwest Africa.
Mm-hmm.
It's all right there, yo.
Yep.
It's all right there through the artwork. Yeah, DC is for like the best artists. Indeed.
So that work that they put in though, it's crazy. It's crazy. Just as they're saying about like with the artwork and you know the ceiling and all the statues and the whatever they got up in there, it's like they put in some work to make sure that you know we know what's up, that we can't play stupid like we don't know, even if they're the ones that are occupying the building and they got the keys for all the locks. We can't play stupid.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, no, it's not.
Like it's unbelievable. Like it baffles me when you got evidence like that. You know, and it's all pointing to us. It's not even like it's pointed to some Europeans or whatever. Even if they got Europeans in them, they're not really telling a European story if you claim to study or anything like that. You know?
Yeah. Hey, you know what though? What it really reminds me of though, but like, well, to me, just way better. I don't know if you've seen the Jay-Z and Beyonce video when they shot the video.
Oh yeah. Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they had the Moors in there and all of that, right?
Yeah, even Mobb Deep and Thing did it too. Mobb Deep did it and Black Moon did it. Shooting the video, shooting the video in that concept of, you know what I mean, elegant inside whatever. You know, marble floor, pillars and shit like that. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It definitely, the Library of Congress is definitely that.
Straight
you know
up.
what I'm talking about? Like, but just like they were way more serious artists. Like, I can't, it just like the fact that this shit is made out of mosaic tiles, I'm gonna always have a bias to that type of art against anybody because that's so Moorish. You know what I mean? That's so focused. That's so much precision. You can't mess one tile up if you're making a picture out of that.
Yeah.
And expect it to come out right. And them tiles are so small that you got to put mad precision and mad time and mad work. And that's just something I respect. I'm like, damn. You know what I mean? Like, in the pictures, I'll say, like, that video, they got it off as far as the aesthetics, but Library of Congress is definitely up there with that. I would say that. Like, real talk. It really is. It really is. But for those who study it, it will mean a lot more from what you would see in there opposed to what you saw in that video. But just the aesthetics, though, is definitely up there. That's a fact.
I got a question in the chat. Is anybody push one on your side there? Yeah.
Let me see. My fault.
No, it's all good. And you had anything else to put out?
Hold on. Nah, not just yet. Depends on what questions are asked, if any. Nah, nobody pressed one on this side. Somebody just pressed one.
Well, there was one in the chat. Why do the Inquisitionists act like they need verified proof when the proof comes directly from the Library of Congress? And we could even put that on the NBCs. We could put that on the conscious community. We could put that on anybody who's in doubt of Moorish history, nationality, and birthrights. You know, why do they act like that when they got, you know, the proof is right there?
Yeah. And you got to remember, too, that the thing is this. Like, to this day, they knew what was happening with the so-called concept of slavery being a business and it being passed down to specific lineal descendants of the modern Europeans on American soil. We have to keep that in context too, because you know, when you look at it from the perspective of why do they act like they don't know, etc., is because the thing is this: when they had the Negro laws and all of that, the thing was all Negroes were assumed to be slaves until proven otherwise. Not that we're Negro, blacks, or colored, but that was the assumption. So you have to keep in mind that Negro and black mean the same thing, and slavery was never abolished. Really, it wasn't. It was just made conditional. But, you know, so they still have aspirations to perpetuate that. You know what I mean? That never was something that they was like, oh, we're going to totally nix that. There's laws in place to prevent you from being that. That's what the law is about, freedom. That's what equity is about. Equity is about freedom as well, or equality, justice, etc. But, you know, it's a shame to say that in these days, some of them still have that same attitude because they have a certain custom. Like, we're looking at it as if they're acting like they don't know, when the reality is we should be looking at them for who they really are. And they're benefiting off of institutionalized slavery. Like, and they have heirs to those types of businesses, whether they be jails. Do you know they spend more finance on the cost of a jail than they do for public anything? Like, you know, they're building jails. Right now, they're investing in new jails. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're putting their millions up to get new jails, et cetera, et cetera. So they have a legacy or industry that they want to keep going. And this is why they act like they don't know, because even since their grandfather's grandfather was doing this, the rule was that Negroes were considered slaves until proven otherwise, which is why you must proclaim your nationality, declare it and proclaim it. Because outside of that, if you have no knowledge of yourself, you're subject to a wardship relationship. That's just the bottom line. So Just like you see remnants of the black codes applying, you see remnants of the Negro laws applying, you know, and they're basically like, we own you till you show something different. And I'm not saying that that's right, but that is the truth of what they're doing. That's what their forefathers did. And I'm not saying that from a victim perspective, like, oh, woe is us. I'm just telling you what it is. So, you know, that's why they play like they don't know. Because we got to act like, or be the fact of, or be what we know. To demonstrate, not act like, but to demonstrate that we do know. So when we be what we know, you know what I mean? And we know that we can't be any of the slave brands in law, in history of Negro, black, colored, etc., because that's already taking us out of a natural conversation and putting it in a whole different jurisdiction, even though it's not right. Right. But that's what's happening. So, yeah.
All right, this other one right here.
Go ahead, boy.
Yeah, this other one.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to new Moors coming into the movement? And is it like right during this time right now? Is it like when you started, or is the level of betrayal higher in the movement now than when you were just brought into this?
Well, let me say, when I was brought into this, I wasn't competent to know what was what, who was who. I wasn't competent enough to know, you know, or have experienced betrayal or what that could entail to somebody else in life, because I was very young. So if it wasn't something that I had any cares in the world of, or something that, you know what I'm saying, that if it was adult business. Like, it wasn't anything that, you know, the elders was worried about convincing the children of this person is rotten type of thing. They just would, you know, understand and deal with the situation accordingly if that was the case. I would say that in these days, yeah, I see now very clearly, you know, more so than ever in my life, that indeed, you know, the infiltrators and the agents are at work. But I also understand that that is a result of what noble, allodial, free Moors were doing. And I'm talking about free in thought. You know what I mean? Don't bring up nothing corny about, oh, go down the street and shoot off your firearm. No, I'm talking about free thinkers, free men, free mind. You know, in situations or not or whatever. I'm talking about the way they thought they were free. And that's what mattered. You know what I'm saying? They knew they didn't really have no physical damn chain on their ankle. And they knew that, you know, there was other people, even with them being on the outside, it was people who would consider them free just because they outside. Because there's other people who are locked up who, you know, you talk to them about freedom, they just like, yo, going down the street to the store on 2 feet makes me feel free. You know what I'm saying? Or whatever. Like, it's people have different perspectives. But freedom is what it is, and there's levels to it. There's definitely levels to it. But today, yeah, I see more enlightenment, but I see a lot of ignorance at the same time, because there's a lot of people who are just getting enlightened by this, and all of their sources are digital, meaning they haven't sat through any Moorish teachers' classes. I'm talking about for a duration of years. Like, they're literally hearing about this shit off of the internet. And that's totally different to me, because I don't think that you can get you can get a good feel, but You can't sit here and down talk to me, a teacher whose class you never sat through. Like, if you didn't sit through a teacher's class, you have no right to critique that. You know, you could take a sound bite, whatever, and try to come up with your tarnishments and things like that. But what you have is a lot of ignorant folk, and because they never heard of this, based off of real life, and their only source and connection to it is Facebook, YouTube, and then, you know, when you see a load of your Moors who bring the light, they usually get attacked by the dirty Moors who've been silent for generations, and they'll tell you, oh, we're not supposed to talk about this, we're not supposed to talk about that. And granted, there's certain things that, you know, ain't for everybody. We get that too. But at the same time, it's like, you know, it's been 100 years, and within the past 10, a load of you Moors that haven't been a part of any temple, any mosque, any church, or any synagogue for a duration of years, you know, have gotten this message to the people at large. So you can't tell me, you know, that everybody's ignorant like that. So the reason why they're coming out and they're attacking people like good, genuine Moors, Harvey Bay, you see all of this happening is because they've been made relevant. The people who have not been doing their job while Harvey Bay Publications was on it, you know what I'm saying, and is on it, and other Lodigan Moors are on it, you know. We're in the days now where the work is showing its fruit and people are jealous. You know what I'm saying? And you see them coming out of nowhere trying to attack Moors because they want to preserve this ass-kissing role and image to the European. And the Europeans already disrespected the Moor science of America of Islamic sect. Black, and the whole lesson of Noble Ali was that you're not Negro, black, and color. Now, that doesn't mean we're not going to have conversations and people are going to use those words. Well, that doesn't mean that anybody who thinks that they're black is retarded or slow or stupid. They just may have black some knowledge. But you know, that being the case, it's just like you got to understand, you know. This is where we come in with the responsibility to teach and enlighten each other because, you know, our people are not stupid. We have just lacked information, and that has been intentional. So understanding that, you get a different perspective on things, and we have to have a little bit of tolerance in this awakening. But yeah, definitely to answer the question all the way, yeah, I would say I see more ignorant people who think they know things, which is a dangerous thing because they have people who follow them who believe them. And that's the scary part. Like, it ain't even them. It's like, yo, y'all believe this shit. I'm scared of y'all because you have no discernment, meaning you're fools because only the wise can exercise the attribute of discernment. So when you don't have any of that discernment, and they just believe what they hear about Moors who exercise their right, as far as like we know the whole slander campaign that has been going on the Lodian Moors. That's counterintelligence, operative, 101 shit. We already know this. You know what I'm saying? All of that just goes into play. So yeah, I just reckon today than I ever did when I was young. I'll say that.
Islam. Yeah, I would just second that, saying that you know, it's the same people, just a different face. You know, it's not really different ones popping up. You know, the handlers just have more people out there causing confusion because There's so much waking up going on again. You know, there's so much enlightenment happening. Remember, this thing happens in cycles. So we're in a cycle right now where people are waking up. They could do whatever the hell they want right now. It's just, what are the people waking up gonna do with what they got now? You know, that's the determining factor. What are the people gonna do when they realize that, hey, yeah, nationality and birthrights? What are they gonna do after that? And then we'll see, you know, and when the next cycle pops up, where we're at. But at this juncture, it's all about getting knowledge right now. There ain't nothing that you can do that's more important than getting some type of knowledge. Preferably something you could use. Preferably something you could use, not just anything knowledge. No.
Absolutely, because it's nothing like a dumb soldier or a dumb leader or whatever it is. You know what I mean? It's like you can't be ignorant of these types of things. You know, so like you said, it's no such thing as, you know, shunning knowledge. We have to have the knowledge. It's the most important thing. And then the wisdom, you know, you can't forget, even with knowledge, you have to have wisdom. You know what I mean? So it's not just what you know, it's how you apply what you know. Like, you can know cobras are poisonous. So your wisdom would to be apply that knowledge, you know, and don't jump in the den of cobras, because you're going to get bit up. You know what I mean? And venomized. Like, so the knowledge and the wisdom is two different things. So the wisdom comes with the application or the activation. And this is where we have to get to.
Yeah.
We have to get to knowledge system. You know what I mean? But you can only be what you know. And that's the wise thing to do at all times. Just be what you know. Because when you try to be what you don't know, herein your ignorance will exhibit itself.
Exactly.
You know what I'm talking about? So,
exactly.
Yeah. That's the main key, bro, I would say.
There's a lot more. Yeah, there was another question. What do you Moors feel is the importance of the prophet wanting us to worship under our own vine and fig tree? Why not say worship under the first vine and fig tree that grew first?
I don't know. That sounds like an over analytical. Like, to me, it just seems like, I don't want to say, you know, it's a bad thing, but it seems like they might be analyzing something. I don't know what's there or not, because when you say worship under your own vine and fig tree, you know, what if your own vine and fig tree is the first vine and fig tree?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, if the question is subjective, it's like, I don't know. You know, you could think about that forever.
Right.
Because, you know, like that case. Why didn't he say the first vine and fig tree? Because if the first vine and fig tree is yours, then we could speculate forever. You know what I mean? We could conclude, but we could still speculate, even if it's not. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I'll just say that I get the message in that, you know. Ensure you plant your own vines and fig trees. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Because they're in it. You can get your alchemist working. Grapevines, all types of vines. You know what I mean? You can do things with that that our ancestors was doing in those times, metaphysically and physically. So, you know, that's just based off of what you see, right? I don't know what they're looking into with that, but that's just real subjective. What's your thoughts on that one, bro?
Well, I would say, to give an answer, it was a qualification of the John the Baptist, Marcus Garvey, because Marcus Garvey used to say that. So I would look at it like it's a connector. It's him letting you know that's how real it is. You know what I mean? Because the reference point to that is in the chapter where he's talking about Marcus Garvey being the forerunner.
Right.
You know what I mean? So he's just stressing the point that, yeah, you know what I mean? We know each other. You know what I mean?
Right.
We talk the same. If you're following him, why not follow me? If I'm talking just like the guy you're following.
Right.
You know, why not follow both of us?
Yeah, pay attention.
Pay attention.
Pay attention.
Eyes wide open.
It is. Know that.
You know.
Interesting, you know. Yeah, but I don't know if there's any more questions in the chat right now. You know, we have one caller with their hand up.
All right.
I could probably take that one.
For sure.
And then we can continue to go back and forth.
Yeah.
Etc. But all right. So let's see what's going on. Caller 504. Hold up. All right. Let's see. 504-478. You're live on the air. You with us, man? Islam Noble.
Peace, more.
Peace, Noble. Yeah, this is Muhammad Bey. I'm calling from Orleans territory. I really don't have a question. I was just up here just listening to y'all radio, man. Y'all on point with it. I just got through listening to National Grand Chief Tasri Big interview on YouTube with I believe he goes by with his page on social media is More Than America, and you know, Grand Chief killed it as always. You know, yeah. But yeah, you know, I was just want to say I appreciate y'all hosting the show tonight, man, and continue on. I hear the flow.
Islam, more give thanks.
All right. So that was caller 504. Now let's only caller on this side. Let's only caller on this side. I'm sure people is listening. But it's pretty cool. So my thing is we don't have to chew up the whole night. We can if people have questions. But you know, I'll just say that keep staying tuned in, pay attention, because we're definitely working on some things. So we'll see what's good if anybody on this side has any more questions. But yeah, bro, I say that to say that the revelations I had these past couple of days in the flesh have been very interesting. I'm just thankful to be alive. It's crazy because it just witnessed. Oh yeah, it seemed like I just witnessed somebody pass away or whatnot out in the front. So I'm just thankful to still be here. But yo, the Library of Congress is definitely a place to go. The Museum of African Art, that was my second time going to that museum, and my first time at the Library of Congress. That museum is really, really good, bro. Like it has some explicit, detailed artwork. When I say explicit, I don't mean like profanity. I mean blatant, you know, statements that are being made through the artwork. So I just appreciate it. I know my days of running down the museums and things like that are really just getting started. You know, I've done one already when we went to the so-called African American Museum, and I photographed some other ones. But while I'm at with it now, I can't wait to share. You know, I really can't wait to share, and I want to really focus in on that among some other things that I need to in life right now. You know, but that's going to be interesting, bro.
For real.
It really is.
Now, somebody made a comment that, so you went there and you looked at pictures and that's it. Like what are you getting from looking at some pictures? Now, do you think that
I'm gonna just like, you know, I don't mean to flex, but the tone of the question, I'm gonna say is ignorant because you haven't studied. You're not on the degrees that we're on to even try to critique and analyzation like that, because the question goes to show and prove you have no knowledge of symboliography. You know what I'm saying? You have no knowledge of what your ancestors' craft work was. If you're gonna act like looking at art is just looking at art and what you're gonna do from that. A picture is worth 1,000 words, was to get, you know, those who don't know and those who are ignorant of certain things to thinking. And that's all Noble Ali was trying to do, was get you thinking again. Some of our people are so, you know, stifled in their thinking, they can't think about shit except for, you know, some ratchet shit on whatever TV show it is or whatever. So my thing is this. We're talking about the Library of Congress. This is for competent intellectuals. If you can't understand art, this might not be for you. It might not be a conversation that you should even be trying to dig. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. The tone of the question sounds like a smart, ignorant person to me. And I don't mean to be arrogant. That's just what it sounds like. So I'm not even going to get into that. If you're trying to low-key criticize or act as if what we're speaking about is irrelevant, that means you need to get your knowledge base up to even understand the conversation that we're having, to even ask a competent question. Like, that's just the fact. So that's my piece on that. And I have nothing personal against that, but that's just my position. I'm not trying to argue. I'm not trying to convince nobody of why it's important. If you miss the fundamentals, I'm sorry, you need to go back and study. I'm not going to go through those fundamentals. You should know this type of stuff already, of why it's important. These niggas put you to sleep with a European Jesus. You asking me why art is important. Why am I looking at art? Put your grandma to sleep with a European Jesus. You don't know why art is important? Okay. And don't even tell me your grandma was Muslim. So if that was the case, I'm pretty sure your aunt or somebody got hit with the Christian European imagery. Don't tell me it ain't somebody you know that got washed up with that imagery. So, you know what I'm talking about? I don't sleep on the arts. I don't sleep on the sciences because I already know what it is. And if you can't decipher saying what's happening, then you need to wake up. I would suggest highly you go to RV Bay Publications and get the MST of A degrees. And when I say that, I'm not talking about the fact that you got to belong to a temple. Because those are degrees the temple, most temples aren't even going to give you. They're not even going to give you that, even though those are degrees you're supposed to be getting. And when you look at that, something is mentioned called symboliography. That's what I'm saying, Kudjo. Like, some of these people are not even competent to critique what we teach because they haven't studied the subject.
Anyways, exactly.
I'm trying to flex them.
Exactly, because they just went into the second part. After you know, as Moors, we already know that, you know, most of our first serves are aces when we deal with people trying to talk BS, right? And they're trying to recover is always going to well, that's the white man's whatever, and Moors help the white man and all this stuff. Further, like we were talking about earlier, further showing their incompetence, further digging the hole that they themselves are going to jump in.
Right. Exactly.
Opposed to accepting the reality. Because it is a reality, what Moors are speaking about. You know what I mean? Like how many you go check the record on YouTube. How many Moors take you to places to show you your stuff? How many Moors actually take you to places? Not just set up something in their room, put a backdrop and have you thinking they got the mic up and they got the logo on the mic handle and all that. You think that they're somebody? They're not giving you anything?
Exactly.
You know, always jumping around. Yeah, just jumping around from stuff to stuff just because Jehovah just shut the F up and go study something and then come say something. Don't just keep rambling just because you have a mouth or whatever. Use your ears sometimes. Use your mind sometimes. And this is a habit with our people, why they remain in mental slavery, not wanting to accept what the truth is. The truth is evident. It does not need you to back it. The truth doesn't need your applause. The truth is what it is. You know, exactly. It's a great time to be yourself instead of being whatever people are trying to convince you that you are. Be yourself.
Exactly. Be yourself. Be what you know. Now, when Noble Jolly said, "Man must be what he knows," if you don't know yourself, what the fuck are you gonna be? Like that's ill, bro. Because when you know yourself, you can be yourself. And if you must be what you know and you know yourself, then you have to be yourself. If you're being what you know. I'm not talking about your name, I'm talking about yourself. You understand? Like it's a big difference. We call trees trees, but they exist off the I am. Just is. You know what I mean? Be yourself. Who are you? Regardless of name. There's many creatures in this life that live and they get to day to day, and there's other animals who don't understand their jurisdiction or their communication. Birds sing to each other. They understand that shit. You ever hear a dog bark in the morning and then the whole community of dogs start going off or early in the morning and shit? Because, you know, they understand the jurisdiction. They understand themselves. They understand what their commonality is. They understand the dog energy. So they could howl and back and forth and shit until they could connect with whatever's going on. You know what I mean? And that's just how it is. Birds do the same thing. I let my mother share experience of what she witnessed with a bird gang today. You know what I'm saying? It's interesting, but that's her story to tell. Not mine, but it is interesting. And, you know, I just say this, pay attention to nature, because, you know, when we talk about art, Allah is an artist. You understand? In a sense.
Yeah.
Like the planet Earth is the artistry, like it says in the Surah 7. As it says in the Holy Quran, you know, mountains could be made move and made and destroyed. And this is the artistry of Allah.
So if we are reflections are parts of our life, the artistry that we make, we have to pay attention to. You know what I'm saying? And it just is what it is. So I say that, you know, the Library of Congress is not just for reading books. It's for those who have their eyes wide open and can observe. Because look, Kudjo, they ask, well, you just went to look at art and, you know, that's it. And what else? And you know what I'm saying? Noble Drew Ali said this, right? In the lessons, the Red Book lessons. In the Red Book lessons, it says, man must learn by signs and symbols. And niggas is still sleeping because they're not learning by signs and symbols. This is how they communicate. And these same people are the ones who will say, oh, the nations keep all the secrets. They don't tell you nothing. Yeah, they do. They don't speak in words, though. You understand? And we had an experience with that. And I'm going to let that footage speak for itself.
Islam.
You know, travel. You know what I'm saying?
Straight.
That's not their language. They speak a different language. Just like your ancestors wrote hieroglyphs. What you think that is? Art. You understand? These motherfuckers, like, excuse my expression. These people
don't even worry.
When they deep the holes in the walls of Kemet and the hieroglyphs on the wall over there, but they can't decipher what's on the walls at the Library of Congress or even in any other country. But they want to tell you about hieroglyphs and Kemet, but can't tell you about their more science that's in front of their face and hieroglyphs, signs and symbols. So I don't believe you all of that. If you want to talk about hieroglyphs and Kemet, but you want to downplay the concept of analyzing art, you can't have it both ways because it's a language in itself. So, you know, y'all want to get all deep and, you know, say Masons are devil worshippers and all of this shit. They speak through art. And you don't know nothing because you can't decipher this language. That language. That doesn't have to involve words. You know what I'm saying? Like, everything isn't going to be told. Even though with Jolly told you, he ain't tell you everything because you would go back to sleep. So what's the rest going to be left to? Signs and symbols. You got to put this thing together. You got to do that. You know what I mean? So miss me with that. You know what I mean? You know, everything isn't going to be told in just writing in plain English alphabet. You know what I'm saying? It's going to take more than that. It's going to take signs. It's going to take symbols. It's going to take pictures. It's going to take all of these things to wake people up. Because we've been saying this for years, and it gets to a point where even when, like somebody asked earlier, you know, with the new wave of people waking up and then waking back up to themselves, it's like it's going to take more for them to get it from those who've known for a while, because it's like this. The people who've known for 20 years already, we're at the point of being tired of talking. Like, it's time to show and prove. Like, we can show you things. We can introduce you to things. We can introduce you to people who can introduce you to things. But as far as, like, trying to keep convincing people that 1 + 1 is 2, you know, you talk to somebody for 20 years, they're not even trying to have that conversation. It doesn't fit into where they're at because they already shed the skins of those degrees. They got it now. They're past that stage. So, like, they get annoyed with the 1 + 1 is 2 conversation all of the time because they're past that. You know what I'm saying? So, for those who didn't pass that and when they have that conversation, you're not going to keep the attention of a mathematician of 20 years in a conversation about 1 + 1 is 2 or not. Like, that's not going to happen. It just doesn't make any sense. Because they're way beyond degree. You know what I mean?
Straight
so,
up,
this is where I'm at with it, bro.
yo, that's where it's at.
You know,
that's where it's at, bro. That's where it's at.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then the people who are just coming into it feel like, well, yo, you known this for 20 years or whatever, and, you know, you didn't tell such and such and such and such, and they don't get it. Like, yo, if you got the degrees we got, we understand first and foremost, man knows nothing by being told. That's not even where it's at. Like, we speak and give reference points. You know what I'm saying? But I can't tell you to death what is what. We can share information, you know what I'm saying? But you're never going to get it, because I was told and told and told, and I got it. I was on the frequency, but it was nothing like seeing the references for myself and absorbing it and internalizing it to make it, you know, a part of my mentality, right? Like, oh, I've seen the facts already. You know what I mean? I've seen the facts. There's nothing else that I need. Like, you know what I mean? This is what my elders told me. Here's the proof. Here's the reference. They was correct. You have no other reference except for your opinion. I don't want to talk opinion. Let's talk facts and truth. That's it. You know what I'm saying? So we here with our eyes wide open. We understand what to study, how we must study, and how, you know, the lack of understanding the different signs and symbols will leave us in ignorance, because they're there for a reason. So, you know, it's beyond just the languages. It's the hieroglyphs. It's the artwork. Because some languages are just straight up art.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Yep. Some languages is straight up art. You look at the Moabite stone, artwork. That's what our ancestors was into. You know, so I'm into that, because I'm into what my ancestors was into. I really have an appreciation for that. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm.
So I'll leave that and note, bro.
Islam, man.
Any more questions, though?
No, there was no more. That was it, pretty much. That was it. There was no more.
Okay.
Yeah, the Moors, the muftis in the chat were beating up on this troll in there. Beating up on this troll in the chat.
That's what's up.
Yeah. But that's about it. These Moors are straight. Yeah, these Moors are straight, yo. Yeah. But they did say good class tonight, and also, you know, give thanks to Sons of Allah for having something for the people. So we want to say Islam to all the Moors.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Islam to all the Moors out there studying and, you know, assisting each other, showing that Holy Covenant is alive. You know, peace and love to all the Moors worldwide.
Absolutely. Hold on, but before we close out, though, we still have 2 callers on this bed.
All right, proper.
I definitely want to, no doubt. And for those who are listening to the live feed, it will go down in 2. So if you want to still call in and listen to this last hour, the number is 319-527-6751. Again, the number is 319-527-6751. That's the guest call in. 319-527-6750. And with that being said, we're going to take our first caller. Caller 804-921. You're live on the air. Are you with us, man? Islam, peace, noble.
Yeah, this brother there, calling from Sakahana territory. You all are pretty much laying it down, man. My biggest thing, like I said, when you made that reference to getting stuff in degrees, I realized that, you know, you brothers are, you know, much more knowledgeable than myself, you know, on the degree knowledge wise. At the end of the day, I look back at it and I say, well, at some point in time, I would like for y'all to be a little more patient with brothers like myself, because like I said, I know I have to humble myself first, you know, because a lot of things I don't know. And then I look back at certain things and I say, I got to be patient with people that don't have the degree of knowledge that I have, you know. So, like I said, you brothers know a lot, man, and you know, especially the stuff that you put out tonight. You know, I can go back when you were just talking about the hieroglyphics. I was because I know that I'm one that work on myself. That one of the biggest things that I know that I suffer with is reading, and I'm working with that. But I was looking at this thing that was up on learning how to pronounce words, and they were talking about what was it? I can't think of how you pronounce words. It's the sound that you make when you're pronouncing words, and that's part of me learning in a different degree, because that's a degree of learning. I don't know if you all have heard of that.
Talking about phonetics.
Yes, and when that's it. And when I seen the word, I could literally read it better than I could if I was just like reading in plain English.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's really cool. Because you got to understand too, you know, a lot of times we get caught on the sounds and don't know how to spell it, you know, because sometimes words are spelled different than they actually sound, you know, so got to be careful with that. That's why I say etymology is definitely a great key in life as well, you know, but yeah, you can't knock the phonetics, because that takes you right back into the Phoenician history, which again is dealing with language. You know, highly communicated people. You know, people who are into communication and things like that. So, you know, phonics, phonetics, etymology, spelling, writing, all of this is more science. All of that is more science.
I'll say this too. There's a more out here in Canaanland, a more that he was literate before more science, and more science has him reading now, because it forced him to have to study. You know, like he was forced to study. If you want to be a Moor, then you got to study. Okay, when you go study, you realize, damn, I don't know how to read. Didn't even know he didn't know how to read till he tried to read. You know what I mean? And you know, he's not completely there, but he's way further than where he was when he first came into this. So, you know what I mean? Just stay on it. It's definitely gonna, it's especially doing it from the perspective that you're doing it with, you know, phonetically and learning the words that way. It would eventually piece together. You know what I mean? Just and again, bringing in the etymology and looking into using a dictionary. You know, the dictionary even breaks it down like small words to biggest words. So even just reading a dictionary, you could learn something. Of course, unabridged dictionary.
Oh yeah, right. And I can't contest what you just said. I know for myself that, you know, spelling words was something that, I mean, like I said, going back to maybe childhood, where my mom would probably, you know, beat me because I didn't know how to spell words, or they had a spell. You know, they always put us into competition.
Yeah, spelling bee. Yeah.
Type of, atmosphere. Where you have to spell and then you stand up and people start laughing at you
because you can't spell.
You don't know how to
trust
spell.
me. Yeah, I know what you're saying, bro. I know what you're saying.
So yeah, I mean, like I say, I completely agree with what you said, because I've learned how to spell so much more that I've been studying, and if I'm reading a book, I would jot down the actual word, and then I would break the word down. I would make like little notes on the side of the book as I'm reading. So if I come back to it, I can just say the word, sound the word out as as I'm reading. So that's a big time help.
Indeed. That's what's up, bro. Well, I trust you do what you gotta do to get your study on, get your knowledge up, and spelling and pronunciation game sharp, bro. It's all a good thing. You can make it happen.
Yeah, and I yield the floor, man. This has been a wonderful call, man, and very enlightening.
Well,
peace, bro. Islam. Thank you. Keep studying more.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, indeed. All right. That being the case, we have another caller. I'm going to take the next caller. Caller 908-278. You're live on the air, fam. Are you with us?
Yes. Peace and blessings. This is Sister C. Hill Ill from New Jersey Territory.
Peace, Islam, mother.
I was just wondering if you hold, besides the Blog Talk Radio, do you hold study groups or classes at all anywhere?
You can pay attention for those announcements throughout October. So pay attention to the Tuesday Blog Talk class. Pay attention to the Sister Standing on Law class, and you'll be updated on the location of the next venue. Because you got to keep in mind, we just ended the 12-year cycle in so-called New York, or Manhattan Island. And so for now, that particular location, there's nothing going on. But I would just say pay attention to RV Bay Publications calendar of events page. Should be updated soon. And pay attention to the blogs for the different announcements throughout October.
Thank you.
And as well, I don't know how far you are from Asbury Park, but there's also Grand Chic Nature, who's in Asbury Park.
Yes, I'm familiar with him, but I've lost touch with him. Is there a number or
you can
address?
if you could send me an email to canaanlandguide@gmail.com.
What is it? Canaanland?
Canaanland Guide, Guide. Canaanland, like the YouTube page, and Guide, Guide, @gmail.com. No, I'll get you an email to him.
Thank you so much, and I leave in peace.
Peace and love.
All right.
Islam.
Islam, indeed. This is Sis. All right. So with that being said, Noble, that was our last caller.
For
this tonight. I'm not sure if there's any other questions, but if that's the case, I would say definitely stay in tune, and I know we'll be going back on Tuesday.
Right.
I know you're for something Sunday.
Yeah.
But Tuesday, next Tuesday, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the MHHS Eyes Wide Open Tuesday blog. And
definitely we'll be back on again for Sons of Allah in October for certain. And we may do something over the YouTube before then, or however we'll do it. Because I know it's still a lot to catch up on. But like I said, man, it's just, you know, I just took in a lot of information, bro. You know how, like, you try to take information off the SD card and put it onto your external hard drive.
Yeah.
And give it that minute to load over, switch over, and settle in, man. It's just like going to the Library of Congress. It was like that for me, man. Like,
for real.
So I know for certain we'll be talking about things a lot more throughout the weeks to come. So I just say for tonight, bro, I thank you for being here as usual.
Thank you, Mark.
And no doubt, bro, you already know. And we will definitely be back on and do something else sooner than later. For certain. Oh, hold up. All right, we got one more caller. Oh, two more callers.
All right. Let's do it.
Take the time to
let's do it. We're here.
They can't still be listening.
We're here.
Yeah, they can't be like, yo, my call.
That's right.
I'll call it. You take my call. Call it 347-9. You're live on the air, baby. With this. Yeah. Peace, Mo. How y'all doing?
Islam, bro.
Hey, on a check-in. How the Morris brothers? What's up?
Everything's good, Mark.
What's up? See, you're putting it down for the crown. You're letting it be known. You're making the right stand, you know? Went to that Congress library I see out there. That's what's up. I like that. I like that. Huh? You're talking facts. Talking with facts, and that's how you're supposed to do it, at all costs. Because everybody else that don't do their homework, you know, they just play themselves. I like when Kudjo said, yo, it is what it is, yo. Some Europeans, they know who we are at the end of the day. You don't even got to say nothing. They can see your presence when you walk around. See the aura in you. I be having them open doors, and they ain't never seen me from Adam. And I know at one time in my life, I never had them want to open the door. They open the door and bow down. So what that tell you? Huh? The Europeans in suits. You know? So they know what time it is. Sure enough. Okay. Yeah. And that's what happens when you study. You study, it goes into the cranium. It gets in the cranium, and then it becomes you. The vibranium in the cranium. Right. The frequency. It goes up. So when others come around you, they feel that vibration. They pick up on your energy, you know? But I love it that you're giving everybody the real, man. For all them trolls out there, step off. Man. For the true Moors is in town. You know what I'm saying? Like they say, the sheriff is in town, Moors is in town. Rose is in town. Don't be silent all around. Checking everybody, pulling all their cards. You feel me?
Shit.
Islam.
Peace and love, Noah.
Peace and love. You know my Moorish brothers, and to all my other Moorish brothers listening, and you know the Moabite sisters listening. So we've been here. We always gonna be here. We ain't going nowhere. All right. I just want to touch on that. Get that out. One love. All right. Peace.
Peace, man.
One love. Indeed. All right. Thanks to Brother Belangi for tuning in, calling in. Appreciate you, bro. And we have one more caller 682-360. You're live on the air. You with this, man? Islam.
Peace, more Islam.
This is Eric Marriott Bay, calling it a Faces territory, what they call the Faces territory. Man, appreciate y'all bringing this light. All honors to y'all. All honors to Noble Ali. All praise be to Allah. Yeah, but I just wanted to say, man, that library of Congress, definitely, I gotta get there, man. I was really looking some stuff up on there. I was trying to get through on the website, but it's kind of hard using the website. But what I was trying to look up the CM Bay had registered the National ID card, right, in the Library of Congress. Right. Is that correct? That's correct, right?
Yeah, but just like everything else, Moorish, you have sellouts around you. So certain things that CMB put in the Library of Congress are only there now as a reference point, unless you go join the club of the people who claim to have authority over CMB stuff. And that's the only way you can get those things now. You can't get them like how CMB set it up for the public to go get or research or whatever. You have to go through their club if you want those things.
So you can't go to the Library of Congress and see the.
Yeah, call them up. Call them up and see. Call them up and see. They'll tell you.
Oh, okay.
They'll tell you that.
I was just gonna ask.
Yeah, they'll tell you. They'll tell you that they don't know what's up. And they'll probably refer you to Clock of Destiny or something. Because again, after Noble Drew Ali transition, people took this out of being nationhood and made it being about clubhood. And whose club is the best club of Moors to be part of? And they're still playing that BS today, when this is about nationhood.
Right.
You know what I mean? And again, going back to the point of why even the Moors went to the Library of Congress, because this thing, you know, it's still stressing the point that there's ample amount of work for us to do, that we need to do, opposed to be, you know what I mean, bickering about some BS that is not really nothing to be bickering about. How about just get active instead of being on the passive side and pointing at the active Moors and talking about these Moors or this and that and renegades and street Moors and whatever. You know what I mean? You know, help the good do more good work. Don't condemn them for doing good work. And a backward thinking is that. But that's like we were talking about Drew Ali saying that, you know, the Moors being taught to jump through the hoop. And the better they jump through the hoop, the more they'll defend the judge. It's the same thing right now with people taught by dirty Moors, who are going to try to convince you that, oh no, yeah, of course, you know, Clock of Destiny is the authority of whatever. And then when you ask them, because you call the Library of Congress to find out or whatever, so then when you bring the question to them about, well, how come the stuff in the Library of Congress are moved or whatever? They'll start talking about, how that's under their jurisdiction because their clock of destiny, and that's not what, when you Noble Drew Ali's stuff, when you read CMB's, whatever, ain't nothing in there talking about they owned anything. Everything they did was for the Moors, for Moorish Americans. They didn't do anything for themselves. Like, they weren't that shallow like these Moors that are around today, right? To think that they're doing whatever they're doing for the Moorish movement for themselves to be in the Grand Sheikh seat or the Supreme Grand Sheikh seat or the Grand Governor seat for 80 years. But they're not doing anything. But they have that seat for 80 years. You haven't done nothing with it? Under the guise of doing something? You know?
Yeah. That layout as the nationality card is what the layout that I charge that I guess the Great Seal or whoever issues those nationality cards. Are they using the same layout as CMB, or did the Noble Drew Ali have a different layout? Was it all the same?
Well, with Moor Science Temple and Great Seal and Clock of Destiny, the temple nationality cards had their own insignia. The Great Seal nationality card was only because of, or the Clock of Destiny nationality card was only because of the infiltration that happened in the temple. That you know, in order to protect the integrity of what Noble Drew Ali laid down, CMB took it in his own hands because of so many corrupt people that were around when Noble Drew Ali transitioned. And then by the time you get today, you know, or not even this time, but, you know, Moors after that, it was either Moors who were claiming some indigenous perspective, or it was Great Seal and Nation of Islam was giving out cards, you know, from the perspective of identity cards. You know, it was all about your right to self-identification. You know, that was the whole point of that. And ultimately, at one point, it didn't matter how it looked like, because everybody was saying that you're Moors. So once you're saying you're Moors, it doesn't even matter. It could look like whatever. It's when people start saying other stuff, but, you know, talking like they're Moors. But you don't see them have a Moroccan flag on their cards, or you don't see them have things relative to Moors in the sense of what it means for Moors to be able to present a document or a card that is going to speak the language that the world would recognize when you present it. You know, many people have their club, and their club might be recognized with some local people around here, but as soon as that goes beyond, you know, the district, they say they don't know what that is. So when you look at, you know, with today, Great Seal having a nationality card, It's because of the corruption. It's because people, like we're saying in the beginning, people that weren't doing the job, so other people who had knowledge did the job. Now that the job's done, people who weren't doing the job are mad. And they're sending out people to cause confusion because it really makes them look like clowns that they're not doing what was supposed to be done, or that they sold out, which is why nothing's being done. I yield the floor.
Right. Okay, yeah, because I was going to try to get one. I was just doing some research and trying to figure out everything. But
well, we always say this too. There's no paper or no card that's gonna do anything for you if you don't know how to use it, which is where the knowledge and the studying part comes in. When we use the example of, you never used a chainsaw before, you might not want to be playing around, because those cut feet off, those cut hands off when you don't use those properly. You know what I mean? And you wouldn't take the chance with that. So why take the chance with this nationality card or these nationality papers that have more power than any chainsaw? You know? So it's really about studying. It's really about refining your mind with the maxims of truth, so that you can start to think right. And then when you start thinking right, then your actions would be right, which would be the time for you to do the physical things with regard to your Moorish identity. But the key to your Moorish identity is first recognizing your Moorish spiritual identity. Because even though Juali said that this is divine first. So that's the first place to go. But again, that, people are into this drug culture that they want knowledge tomorrow. Just like these dudes get money, $5 grand a night. They don't want to go work or whatever. They want stuff fall in their lap. Same way people are doing with knowledge. They just want knowledge just to go in their mind, and then, oh yeah, now I know something. They think it's Matrix. You just upload stuff to people's brain. Well, no, you got to put in your hours of study in this. Like, you really got to put in your hours of study if you want to claim anything. You have to put in your time. If time's not put in, then you get nothing out. It's just that simple. You get in what you put out. Yeah, like what the Moors say, microwave generation. You don't want microwave dinner for dinner. You want to go cook something or have somebody cook something, but you don't want a microwave dinner for dinner. Forget all that. You don't want microwave knowledge. No.
It takes you 50 years or more.
Right. Yeah, but again, just with what we're saying, we'll even go back to CMB, because somebody made a comment in the chat about CMB being kicked out of the temple, right? Even if CMB was kicked out of the temple, he repped the temple harder than these Moors that are around today claiming that there's some authority in it. You know what I mean? I never see none of these Grand Sheiks or whoever got anything in the Library of Congress. Not a book, not a article, nothing. But you're gonna diss the man who put something on the record there, and something on the record that he put for Moors. It's not even like he put it for himself so he can get some accolades. He put that there for Moors. Moors going to talk about he wasn't with Noble Drew Ali. He got kicked out the temple. I'm sure Noble Drew Ali is very proud that when they said, "What's your nationality?" on that certification paper, he put Moorish American. I'm sure Noble Drew Ali's all right with him. And I'm sure that if he got kicked out of the temple, it wasn't by Noble Drew Ali. Also, keep studying, because
more research on CMA.
Yeah, everything's out there. Clock of Destiny 1 and 2, Circle of Life, Zodiac Constitution. You know, it's all out there. rvbaypublications.com.
Yeah, I was reading through the Zodiac Constitution.
Yeah.
I think it was Article 6. I was reading through, and then saying something about, I ain't got it with me, so I ain't gonna even quote it, but I was reading through Article 6, it was kind of, I was trying to make sense of it. But
look, if we look at it in its entirety, right? The concept of Zodiac Constitution being filed in the Library of Congress is so that these inquisitionists can't say they don't know, because they study out of the Library of Congress. That's where they go when they're going to study. That's where the top dogs go to go study. They're going to Library of Congress. Just like how certain people at one time, they went to Library of Alexandria and all that to go learn. These people today, they go to Library of Congress if they're somebody. So they know. They know about those articles.
All right.
You know.
Have y'all ever heard of the Moorish Divine and National Movement proclamation of the official proclamation of the real Moorish American nationality?
No, is that a book?
I'm not sure. I looked it up I typed in Noble Drew Ali book, and that was one that popped up. That's why I was trying to see if you ever heard of that, or if anybody ever heard of that.
I think I heard of it, but I know that's not something by Noble Drew Ali. I know that.
Divinely prepared by Captain Noble Drew Ali. Issued and evoked by the Moorish Science Temple, California, Incorporated.
They're talking about the official proclamation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you have divinely prepared by Noble Drew Ali, but issued and invoked by Moorish Science Temple, California, Incorporated, there's a contradiction there. Because if it's divinely prepared by Noble Drew Ali, at the time of Noble Drew Ali doing in literature, everything was coming out of Chicago. And no one was coming out of California. What Noble Drew Ali doing in California? But these are the games that people play. You know, because look at the same book cover right? When you look at the same book cover, look at how they're playing people. They have the flags appearing to be in the right place. But when you follow the flagpole, you realize that the banner is before the Moroccan flag, which is a violation. Because you never put the occupier's flag before your flag. But they're gonna say, yeah, because they're saying they're Moorish Science Temple of America. So if they're Moorish Science Temple of America, then that means the Moroccan flag is on the left and the Stars and Stripes banner is on the right. But that's not what's in this picture. The Moroccan flag is actually on the left if you follow, is actually on the right if you follow the flagpole.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Right? So they're not who they claim that they are. And again, trying to draw the people, talking about divinely prepared by Noble Drew Ali. Noble Drew Ali only wrote that in the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple. So somebody's saying that there's another divinely prepared book by Noble Drew Ali that we don't know about, and all of a sudden it just came up yesterday. Because we know for sure that this wasn't around during Noble Drew Ali's time.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm not, it don't really look right.
You know.
Yeah. That's my piece on everything. I don't know if there's any more callers, but I yield the flow. And I appreciate everything y'all doing. My highest honor to y'all. Brother Joe. Allah. Y'all keep doing what y'all doing, bringing light. The people need this light.
Islam. And again, don't, like when we're looking at, we have many places where we go to get literature. But don't get confused because you didn't check the content. Don't get confused because you didn't check the content. Because, yeah, you could learn a lot, but never judge a book by its cover. Read the book.
Okay. We'll do that.
And if you have any questions, again, you could email canaanlandguide@gmail.com and we'll get back to you with whatever.
Okay.
All right.
Appreciate y'all, man.
All right, more.
All right. Peace and love.
Peace and love, more. You might be muted. Peace to all the Moors worldwide. We're here. Anybody in the chat, if you got anything, you can shout that out. If not, we'll get this close out on the queue up. Him effer. Him effer. You still on here 2 hours later? Him effer. You still up in here. Him effer still up in here. Going hard. Him effer. Him effer going hard. Harder than anybody else. No life whatsoever. Loser. Him effer the loser. Super loser. Super loser him effer. Super loser. So we're gonna get this. We're gonna get this close out. Trying to find our music. So peace and love to all, and to all Islam.
So it's gonna get you in. What? I'm a rocket. Who says we ain't in the building? Who says we ain't into building? We the Morris Master Masons, architects for your children, repping Friday 30s like Jason, without the killing, but we promote life. Oh, it's all about the feeling, and we invoke life, yo. We them light beings. Though you might see him on the block getting this posture, might be talking to cops, giving the posture, occasionally wearing his vest when he's walking. See the turning heads, whispering gawking, but he's locked in and he's zoned out while we boxed in our own house.
Study the mystics, the adepts, the magi, wisdom of the ancients can all calcify eyes. Possible mission, free mental numbness, extract the substance with minds of dumbness. Use the source, don't care what's up report, as we know by being told man knows not. Many before the floor, souls got bought, placed in the devil's hands, ruled in the seven lands. To dogma rituals, Negro spirituals, brainwash subliminal, keeps thinking to a minimal. They still criminal, in a world digital so pitiful. Mental survival so critical, it's visible. Can you see past like this box? Hashtag zombies with waves of cyber thoughts. No need for cell phones, they speak to soft arms. It's nothing for alarm, chips and forearms.
Wind, brass, and bass, such a beautiful serenade. Women feeding me grapes, I'm feeding the enemy's serenades. Whether the sky is clear or gray, rain when you hear a fake, giving life to see. Speaking through what I hear today. Show you the future in a glimpse. And I always look to these holes like hallucinatory gifts. Sun walked the desert, been more of a since I found God. Look back, used to see his prince. Forget being a prince, I'm a G. OD, grown man, no joke, deny you don't know me. Don't make me tap into the old me. That's like a couple hundred years. Walk around town with a couple hundred peers and release the peace of up fears. The sun gon' shine, so what tears? This young brother here just trying to get his third eye clear.
Morse don't sleep. Invest in your mind and body and unleash. Real life rap, spitting over tracks. Conscious thinking and living and then attack. So it's gonna get you in. What? I'm a rocket. Who says we ain't in the building? Who says we ain't into building? We the Morris Master Masons, architects for your children, repping Friday 30s like Jason, without the killing, but we promote life. Oh, it's all about the feeling, and we invoke life, yo. We them light beings. Though you might see him on the block getting this posture, might be talking to cops, giving a posture, occasionally wearing his vest when he's walking. See the turning heads, whispering gawking, but he's locked in and he's zoned out while we boxed in our own house.
Study the mystics, the adepts, the magi, wisdom of the ancients can all calcify eyes. Possible mission, free mental numbness, extract the substance with minds of darkness. Use the source, don't care what's up report, as we know by being told man knows not. Many before the floor, souls got bought, placed in the devil's hands, ruled in the seven lands. To dogma rituals, Negro spirituals,
brainwash subliminal, keeps thinking to a minimal. They're still criminal in a world digital so pitiful. Mental survival so critical, it's visible. Can you see past righteous wrong? Hashtag zombies with waves of cyberpunk. No need for cell phones, they speak some soft arms. It's nothing for alarm, chips and forearm.
Wind, brass, and bass, such a beautiful serenade. Women feeding me grapes, I'm feeding the inner serenade. Whether this night is clear or gray, rain when you hear effect, giving life to see. Speaking through who I hear today. Show you the future in the glimpse. Then I was built to these holes like hallucinary depths. Sun walked the desert, been more of a since I found God. Look back, used to see his friends. Forget being a prince, I'm a G. OD, grown man, no jokey. Deny you don't know me. Don't make me tap into the old me. That's like a couple hundred years. Walk around town with a couple hundred peers and release the peace of up fears. The sun gon' shine, so what fears? This young brother here just trying to get his third eye clear.
Moors don't sleep, invest in your mind and body and unleash. Real life rap, spitting over tracks, conscious thinking and living in dead attack. This deep. Moors don't sleep, invest in your mind and body and unleash. Real life rap, spitting over tracks, conscious thinking and living in dead attack.
So as the moon sets, the sun takes its place and spoons on blocks, inspired spots, fill spaces, peel back, rats, who got kisses, fire stain the corridors of flemo faces. Game changers, rule benders, and no pretenders. Style benders, channel my vibe through the vibrant optic lenses. Send a message to our veterans, soldiers up and get it in. We on the birds, we are merged, subliminal beings. Third eye seeing, still I participate unwilling.
They wanna break me, shake back, baby. Run with my name G, double O-M-G. S-O-N is crazy for a minute that you think you could take me for a fool like a native to his land. Being schooled by a foreign dude. Keep mistaking me, spiders on the roof, in the dark rooms. I've been saying you mistaken me. You better move or I'm market. Poetry is my tongue, to resistance to target. Revealing all lies and deceit on the market. Genocide, carry out in pockets, I knock it down, bulldozer. Give it to Goliath, it's an exposure. Some big heads moving and it's getting closer to your downfall. Round up on your soldiers.
Little hungry, I was seeking a fortune, tired of misfortune. I just wanted a portion, everything that I never had, though I needed my portion. Blowing like porcelain, haters cracking the porcelain. Dead broke, tired of being broke. How we acquire hope is the teacher still as a dope, just to keep us afloat. Might as deep as a boat, bring us to leave the weapon we want, need to below. When I speak, I'm a boat. Walk in the room with my aura feeling like heavy smoke. Feel like when they let me broke under my Louis fitted the semi-coat. Cause dirty caps are tripping, boy, yeah, the joke. The cost of living, higher profit to private printing. These little girls are selling body just to pay the whistle. These little niggas selling niggas just to build the future. It's like this thing they never had to break the intermission. I wanna free the world, but I'm one man. A couple ones like me with me one plan. I wanna free the world, but I'm one man. A couple ones like me with one plan.
KGP Beats.
Time is wasted, I use the mind elevation. Mind elevation, time is wasted, I use the mind elevation. I use the mind elevation, time is wasted, I use the mind elevation.
I know it's a lot to digest, but that doesn't mean you should digress. Stay on the studies, knowledge is power. As man thinketh, so is he. Be a lot in man, G-O-D. Generator, operator, destroyer. Hold up, give it a chance before you throw in the towel and call it quits. Take time to think what the prophet Drew Ali did. He bankrupted the U.S. so you could be free. Brought back El-Bay, Al-Day, and Ali. He brought back civilization, found his mainframe. Not only in appearance, but an abstract strain. Brought back the constitutional folder game. I know pigs got guns, just maintain. Put the guns down. Have you lost your brain? They got nukes, tanks, and drone bomber planes. Yeah, black power, but RBG are Moroccan flag colors. Can't you see? I know your sight is going, but you're not blind yet. It's all in your mind anyway, so don't mind threats. Life is too short. Not talking to rap pimp, calling yourself nigga when that's a chimp. Cave dweller, hey fella, a monkey is who you think you are, you stupid junkie. High of ignorance and ignorance. From sheets warning you of King Alfred plans. It's not about being in courts, but make them hear you. Declare your nationality, don't let them scare you.
The time is wasted, I use the mind elevation. I use the mind elevation. Time is wasted. I use the mind elevation. I use the mind elevation. Time is wasted. I use the mind elevation. I use the mind elevation. Time is wasted. I use the mind elevation. I use the mind
50 posts a day of brutality on Facebook. I know it's a lot. I still say study law books. Cause uniform pigs, wolves with badges creep. Ready to sink teeth in cause you act like sheep. Passive and docile, needing a shepherd. And the one you choose got rooms with flush checking. Compass and square sigils with a G in the middle. Have masses follow them like he's playing a fiddle. Have masses follow them cause masses scared shitless. Stay witless but post the world star when they bear witness. Always waiting for the rights from civil trickness. All your black leaders are on King Alfred hit list. Dirty Moors smelling like they got shit dipped. Picture for Aquarian age, make them switch hit. Like when I found 2 ounces and did a quick flip. From black to Moorish American, give devil split lips. Men walking with slit pupils and lipless. Talking my language like this is Genesis. I used to be one of society's menaces. Acting devilish makes me shake my head every time I reminisce about the past. Living fast at night, no days. Full ahead of ways and low flow days. I know those days won't be coming back again. Change is good, but I still beg no friends.
Time is wasted. I use the mind elevation. I use the mind elevation. Time is wasted. I use the mind elevation. I use the mind elevation. Time is wasted. I use the mind elevation. I use the mind elevation. Time is wasted. I use the mind elevation. I use the mind elevation.
Conscious schools try to school me with limited knowledge. Taught to them by overseers from Masters College. 5 G's a year, I call that robbage and racketeering. Mental slave boats got mine stacked to the ceiling with info and data. Too many more haters. Dissing the Moore's birthright is dissing yours, player. Conscious schools chasing MCA fiat paper, not to be mean, but pyramid schemes for later. Grabbing at your attention like Aaron, don't care. Looking at a computer screen with a dead blank stare. I'm the Moorish MC, no pranks here. If you're too punk to be a Moor, just stand fair. If you scared to die, you better throw in the towel. A lot of black African group movements are vowel. Well, they say Moors, but they talking black shit. That's still brown, I think your brains in backwards. Common sense broke his neck from a backflip. Some knowledge people get is like a crack epidemic. Nothing but denial. When I call up a Moor, they don't even watch the German Moors class with Moreland Bay. Didn't watch Moorish Connection to hip-hop. NBA nigga slaves got youths in flip-flops and minus degrees like he's Bosch in Miami Beach. So hungry with money and fronts in his teeth. Of lab weed or chemicals he always reeks. Not saved by the bell, punk or rap and screech. MC Captain teach the same boys on Backstreet. Get in the booth, run through beats like track meets. I call Nia KTS and calling out as witness. Moorish MC, when I rap I spit gifts. Rapping blood clot dummies are on my hit list. Blowing through the air, no kush, just natural mystics. I stay lawful, they want me legalistic. I'm on the corner schooling young gods you call biscuits.
Time is wasted. I use the mind elevation. I use the mind elevation. Time is wasted. I use the mind elevation.